The Feminist Movement of the 1960s and 70s by Joycelyn Watford and Mallory Jackson. For many years, it has been instilled in the brains of Americans that a woman's job was in the home. She was looked at as the keeper of the family. It was common for a woman to get married, have children, and sacrifice her life as a homemaker all before she reached the age of 30. Totally different from now. Women today are having their first child and getting married in their 30s and 40s. In the 1960s, women sought out more than ever to break that tradition and started to seek out earning equality in the workforce outside of the home. When the 1960s approached, there was at least 38% of American women in the workforce, but they were still limited to what they could do. They were paid lower salaries and denied advancement within their companies. The only options they had really were to be teachers, nurses, and secretaries. You had some people speaking horrible things against women being in the workforce, trying everything in their power to make certain that this wouldn't happen. One dean at a medical school stated, "Hell yes, we have a quota. We do keep women out when we can. We don't want them here and they don't want them elsewhere either, whether or not they'll admit it." With statements as such from so many others, that just encouraged women to fight harder for their place in the workforce. In result, you eventually had 6% of American women doctors, 3% of American women lawyers, and less than 1% American women engineers when the 1960s approached. Let the games begin. In 1962, an American writer, activist, and feminist by the name of Betty Friedan published a book called The Feminist Mystique that stunned the nation. In the book, she brought out how frustrated, trapped, and unfulfilled women felt. One lady stated, "I'm depressed. I begin to have no personality. I'm a server of food and a putter on of pants and a bed maker. Somebody who can be called on when you want something. But who am I?" Friedan's book spoke to an audience of educated, upper middle class white women. Her work had such an impact, it sparked the second wave of the American feminist movement of the 1960s and 70s. Luckily, during this movement, not all men were against women equality in the workforce. In 1964, House Representative Howard Smith proposed allowance on gender discrimination into the Civil Rights Act. He was laughed at by his fellow congressmen, of course, but with the help of a lawyer, judge, feminist, and representative of Michigan by the name of Martha Griffiths, the law passed. In 1966, there was a new established Equal Employment Opportunity Commission that refused to enforce this law that Smith and Griffiths fought for. So that summer, a group of feminists, including Betty Friedan, developed an organization that would fight gender discrimination through the court system. The National Organization for Women, known as NOW, was established. This group focused on bringing women to the full participation in the mainstream of American society, exercising all privileges and responsibilities in equal partnership with men. The organization had achieved many of their goals through direct mass marching, rallies, and intensive lobbying. Some of their most known work has been in preventing harassment and violence against women. You would have thought every woman in America now would be on the same page, but they weren't. You had younger feminists who distrusted the older generation, Friedan's generation. They felt that the organization now was stuffy and out of touch. They felt that the organization demands and style weren't radical enough for their progressing generation. One of these younger feminists was Gloria Steinem. As the 1970s approached, an American feminist, journalist, and social and political activist by the name of Gloria Steinem became recognized as a leader and spokeswoman for the feminist movement. In 1969, she published an article entitled "After Black Power, Women's Liberation," which brought her to national fame. Unlike Frieden, she pinpointed on women's rights of African American women as well in the workforce within her writings. Steinem attracted media attention through her writings and appearance. She presented an example of a woman who was a feminist without throwing man-hating quotes that were associated with the earlier generation of feminists. Steinem founded the Women's Action Alliance in 1971. It was a more local action than legislation and was about coordinating individuals. The alliance helped open the first shelters for battered women. Even though you had different groups that were fighting for the same cause, just in different forms, that definitely didn't stop the NOW organization. They continued alongside the younger generation. In 1972, their focus was heavily on passing the Equal Rights Amendment known as ERA. You had thousands of women flaunting their ERA pins. Also in 1972, the National Women's Political Caucus known as the NWPC, which Steinem was a part of as well. This organization focused on increasing women's participation in public life as voters, party convention delegates and officials, and office holders on local, state, and national levels. In 1975, they won the fight to continue the party's platform endorsement of the Equal Rights Amendment. In the 1960s and 70s, there were countless organizations found. America, an organization that aimed to win the support of the Equal Rights Amendment as well. Coalition of Labor Union Women, that aimed to increase women's involvement in unions and political activities. Women Employed, aimed to serve working women, especially non-union women, in offices to gain economic equality and workplace respect. The list goes on, but needless to say, it was a beautiful time in America to see women step up so greatly for equality, which benefits us women of America today.